Hi, this is part 3 to my industry dubbing project. In this video I'm going to describe the processes involved in doing the 5.1 surround mix for this project. So before we started on actually doing the surround mix, what we needed to do was calibrate the actual surround system. And what we did was we used an SPL meter to measure the level of the sub to start, which I think was 90 dB. And the other speakers in the system needed to be 4 dB lower than this, so we measured them to start and then adjusted the volume until they were at the right level. So now we need to talk about the actual technical standards for delivery for this surround project. We again used the BBC standards for this, which the first thing to consider was that BBC asked that a blitz tone be at the beginning of the project. This is a lineup tone, so that you can line up your system to it. We also used that in making sure the system was properly calibrated. And again, loudness levels need to be compliant with EBU R128 for this, which is a minus 18 dBFS, which is a 4 ppm reference. And, as well as that, the time code at the start of the video needed to be set to 10 hours, and the actual video itself would start at 9 hours and 58. This basically leaves 2 minutes at the beginning of the project, so that something can be added there. It originally originated from film, where if they needed to add something at the beginning, it would make sure that you had space there so that you weren't in a block, because the project started immediately. And what we did for this was we found the reference for dial norm, which is the standard dialogue level within the project. We found a paper by Steve Poor where he'd measured several TV shows and to find the dial norm level for them. He found that Ugly Betty was at minus 27 dB, and Sherlock Holmes was at minus 28 dBFS, it lines up to around what we know the American standard is, which is minus 27 dBFS. But the British standard is actually 2 dB higher than that, so it'd be minus 25. That's because the UK reference is actually 2 dB different from the American reference. We also extracted a reference track from a Pirates of the Caribbean DB and found that was also at minus 27, so we knew we were on the right track with that. For our project, we actually went just very slightly over 25 because the actual dialogue we were using was slightly shouty, above normal speaking level. And that's what we use for the standards of delivery. And in terms of the actual mix, we tried to be a bit more creative with the surround in comparison to the stereo. For example, we have a piece of a Chinese drum kit with some reverb on it, which makes like a hissing sound in the distance. For this, we used automation so that it would move around the surround field, so it moved from right to left and then left to right as it went along. And we also tried to change the panning of the drum kit so that if you were sitting in the ideal position within the surround field, it'd give you the perception of you being the drummer. So you would have your snare slightly to your left, for example, and your hi-hat there as well. Another trick we used was to send the reverb for the vocal behind the listener and the actual main vocal in the front to give it a bit more of space, which I think that worked quite well. And another thing was the LFE, which is the low frequency management within the surround system. We needed to be quite selective about what we sent to that, because it was letting it was creating subs from what we sent to it. It's quite important for making the kick and the bass drum and the bass guitar quite prominent. And there were some. We tried it on a little bit on the guitar as well, but we left vocals out of it, for example, because there's not really any need for sub frequencies on the vocals. So that's what we did with the surround mix for that. In the next video, I'm going to evaluate the quality of the final product we came up with.